I would like to start with a story, a personal story. On the 22nd of September 1978, I left Lebanon under the bombs during the war there, and I flew to Paris. So I landed in Paris on the 22nd of September 1978, which is 44 years ago. And Paris was quite new to me, and I discovered a totally different perspective, whether it is the history, the culture, which I knew from Lebanon, and particularly everything that is related to food and wine. But I was not interested in wine at that time. Maybe I was too young, and probably in Lebanon, while it is a wine country, wine doesn't necessarily have the proeminent place in everyday's life. So after a few years, I started tasting wines. I fell in love with wines in general, good wines, because my starting point was a great Sauterne, and from there I really developed consciously or unconsciously my passion for wine. So today, to celebrate this 44th anniversary, I opened yesterday a bottle of 1978, so 44 years old, an old bottle of Bourgogne. Bourgogne in 1978 was a stellar year, and until today it's kind of a reference year. You know, usually people, when they say it's a great year, they say it's comparable to 1978. 1978 is very special because it was a very rainy year, particularly in June, July, and until the third week of August, when you really start to believe that it's gonna be a disaster. And everything all of a sudden turned upside down. The rainy year was replaced in the last few weeks, which are very decisive, because this is when you are getting close to picking the grapes. And starting from the third week of August, weeks after week with sunny, unbelievable weather. At that time I was in Paris. The sky was gray all the time, coming from Beirut. To me, it's completely different landscape, but a few hundred miles away from Paris, going south to Burgundy, southeast to Burgundy, obviously the weather was perfect. The weather was perfect for picking grapes at exact maturity, which gave this particular year a clear advantage over 77, which was a totally disaster year, but even over 79 and 1980, which were two very good years. But after 1978, the bar was too high. So today's bottle is a Gevrey-Chambertin, Clos Prieur, from Domaine Geoffroy, père et fils, Geoffroy family. This domain, to my knowledge, does not exist anymore the way it was in 1978. The Clos Prieur is a climat in Burgundy within the appellation Gevrey-Chambertin, and this Clos is probably in full ownership of the family of Geoffroy, because the only reference I'm aware of today of the same Clos Prieur, unless part of the Clos Prieur is assembled in other, Gevrey-Chambertin or Burgundy, is Armand Geoffroy, which may be the suite of the Domaine Geoffroy. Anyhow, 1978, 44 years old, it's a village, it's not a first growth, premier cru, it's not a grand cru, of course not, but it is a Clos, which is already very particular. So here we go. So first of all, the color is of course a color of a wine that bears it's 44 years old. It has some caramel color, a little bit of reddish, but the rest of this intriguing glass is light orange, light caramel. So an old wine, no doubt about it. The first nose, actually I opened it yesterday, and it seems to me that the nose has evolved. Now I feel more the fruits coming out of the wine, but it has a clearly nutty, kind of oldish nose. It still feels like nothing like a Porto or a Jerez, but a wine that has passed its apogee in terms of the nose. Now, I was very pleasantly surprised when I opened it yesterday, and I can confirm today that the impression on the palate is totally different from what you would expect from the nose. This wine has freshness, is really round, really enjoyable, although you could feel that this wine has a few years behind it. However, of course, it has to be drunk now, but it is still very pleasant. It does hold good acidity, which probably its secret for being able to continue to provide some pleasure while drinking. Now I sense this acidity, I sense this perfume of a little bit of raspberry, raspberry, a little bit jammed raspberry, dry fruits, kind of nuts, if you will, and a little bit of tobacco, coffee, mushrooms. It's quite earthy, but the acidity is very present for people who prefer, wines that have been going through what we call the malolactic fermentation, which rounds up completely the wine and you could hardly feel the acidity. This wine is probably not the wine you would want. But for people who are looking for an experience of an old wine that is still holding and still giving pleasure, well, this Gevrey-Chambertin Clos Prieur from Domaine Geoffroy et Fils is a really good bottle, and I really enjoyed it a lot. Cheers, and see you soon.